Coming up on Network Africa. Serving soldiers in Ivory Coast take to the streets to press home some demands. And Namibia sues Germany for what they call a genocide campaign by German colonial troops in the early 1900s. And later on our Africa Tech segment, we'll take you to Tunisia, where an app is being developed to help young disabled people in the country. It's great to have you on the show. I am Bisi Adebayo. We'll begin in Ivory Coast, where soldiers, many of whom are former rebels, have taken to the streets of 3 major cities, demanding to be provided with about $8,000 in cash and a home. These benefits had been agreed upon as part of a deal to end the country's civil war, but it was never delivered. Most of the soldiers used to be former rebels who were integrated into the army after the country's civil war ended in 2011. Gunfire erupted overnight in Ivory Coast's second largest city of Bouaké after former soldiers seized arms from police stations and took up positions in the city. A similar uprising occurred in 2014 when hundreds of soldiers barricaded roads in several cities and towns across the country, demanding payment of old wages. Over now to Kenya, where doctors have rejected the latest pay offer by the government in its attempt to end the month-long nationwide strike that has paralyzed operations in public hospitals. President Uhuru Kenyatta met the doctors' union representatives on Tuesday and made an offer to increase the health workers' allowances by at least $560. But the union says the offer favors doctors but leaves out the public and the need to train more doctors. The union also believes the offer doesn't capture the salary structure that was agreed between the doctors and the government. The doctors are pushing the government to honor an agreement signed in 2013 that promised to increase the number of doctors, research funds, drugs, and equipment in public hospitals. Meanwhile, many Kenyans continue to suffer and their resources are strained as they seek medical care in expensive private hospitals. Senators allied to the governing party in Kenya have voted to pass a controversial election law that would allow manual voting as a backup if the electronic system fails. The opposition had been against the use of the manual system, arguing that it was a plan to rig the August elections. 26 members of parliament in the 47-member House voted in support of the bill and 10 opposed it. Opposition leaders had threatened to call a mass protest on January the 4th after the MPs in the National Assembly, which is the lower house, passed the controversial law. They, however, cancelled the plans to allow the Senate to debate the law. The government argues that the use of electronic voting might disenfranchise some voters in areas where there is no electricity. And elsewhere, and in Ghana to be precise, President John Mahama has officially welcomed President-elect Nana Akufo-Addo to the Flagstaff in Accra. The visit of the leader of the incoming government was to enable him familiarize with his soon-to-be office. President-elect Nana Addo, who was accompanied by his Vice President Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia and some key party officials, thanks President Mahama for his statesmanship and promised to continue to build upon what he started. We're going to have a conversation on what's happening in Ghana, but in the meantime, descendants of the Herero and Nama people of Namibia are suing Germany for damages in the United States over what they call a genocide campaign by colonial troops in the early 1900s. The genocide campaign led to the death of more than 100,000 people.
According to a complaint filed with the U.S. District Court in Manhattan, Germany has excluded the plaintiffs from talks with Namibia regarding what occurred and has publicly said any settlement will not include reparations to victims, even if compensation is awarded to Namibia itself.
The problem is when the atrocities are closest to home, in this case Imperial Germany, It's difficult, we understand, for Germany to come to terms with it, and we're very heartened that Germany does seem to be confronting the issue and coming to terms with it. But compensation must be an important key of the full peace, full settlement, the full resolution of the issues.
The proposed class action lawsuit seeks unspecified sums for thousands of descendants of the victims for the incalculable damages that were caused. U.S. representatives of the German government did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The slaughter took place from roughly 1904 to 1908, when Namibia was a German colony known as Southwest Africa after the Herero and Nama groups rebelled against German rule. According to many reports, victims were also subjected to harsh conditions in concentration camps, and some had their skulls sent to Germany for scientific experiments. Some historians view what occurred as the 20th century's first genocide, and a 1985 United Nations report says the massacre of Hereros qualifies as genocide. Germany has paid victims of the Holocaust, which occurred during World War II. The plaintiffs sued under the Alien Tort Statute, a 1789 U.S. law often invoked in human rights cases.
We understand that they say it is an apology without reparations. Apology without reparations. If that is what the German government intends to do, we would appeal to the representatives of the German people assembled in the Bundestag to seriously reject that position of the executive branch of the German government.
A few months ago, Paramount Chief of the Herero people, Vekui Rokuro, says an apology without reparations will seriously constitute a phenomenal insult to the intelligence not only of Namibians and the descendants of the victim communities, but to Africans in general and, in effect, to humanity. The U.S. Supreme Court narrowed the law's reach in a 2013 decision, Kerbal versus Royal Dutch Petroleum Corporation, saying it was presumed not to cover foreign conduct unless the claims sufficiently touch and concern the United States.
Well, let's return to Ghana, where the inauguration of the president-elect will be on Saturday. And ahead of that inauguration, the president, John Dramani Mahama, has officially welcomed President-elect Nana Akufo-Addo to the Flagstaff in Accra as part of preparations for him to take over his office on Saturday. Well, joining us to talk more on this is the VOA's Francisca Kakara. Thanks for joining us, Francisca.
Thank you for having me.
Now, what are we to expect as President-elect Nana Akufo-Addo is inaugurated as Ghana's president on Saturday?
Inauguration ceremony will start midnight today, but in Parliament for newly elected MPs to be sworn into office, to begin a new Parliament. And then we'll have the new president or the president-elect go through the ceremony on Saturday proper. And we're expecting that heads of state from several countries, especially African countries, will be there. We understand from the transition committee by the new government and the outgoing government that the president for Cote d'Ivoire, Alassane Ouattara, will be the special guest of honor. We know presidents of Ethiopia, of Nigeria, and so on are going to be there. 6,000 security personnel will be on duty on the ground. This is happening live in Accra at the Independence Square or the Black Star Square, which ceremonies over the years like that have happened. So we're expecting all of this. We're expecting thousands of dignitaries, thousands of representatives from countries across the world. And by close of day tomorrow, he would have gone through the ceremony, been sworn into office in Parliament as well, because there will be a new Parliament, and then he'll take it on from there.
So, having said that, what should be top on the agenda for the new president? Some have argued that he should face the issue of unemployment, especially among youth, for instance. So what else should be the major issue that he should face when he resumes office?
Well, the major issues in the country, topical for every Ghanaian, is the issue of the economy, corruption, unemployment, and the rampant electricity cuts. These are 4 main issues on the minds of every Ghanaian. Now, the president-elect in his campaign last year put these topics as his main agenda. We know, for starters, he's going to have to continue with the fiscal austerity by the IMF, and when Ghana joined or went for a bailout in 2015, that will be tough because he will have to also manage the economy in such a way that people will have relief. The economy has been described as being in crisis. Inflation rate is high. We have an average of about 17 points. The economy is not doing so well. We have interest rates so high, businesses are suffering, and the electricity crisis makes it even far worse. So with the IMF conditionalities, which will make it difficult for him on one side, he also has to fulfill his promise of improving the economy. We know that he addressed business communities and promised to reduce taxes and also bring the private sector on board, especially for Nana Akufo-Addo's campaign promise of 1 district, 1 factory, and 1 village, 1 dam. So it's going to be difficult. He's also promised to set up a special prosecutor to address the issue of corruption. And he said that anybody found, even in his government, for engaging in any corrupt activities will be dealt with. So we are looking forward to the announcement of an independent prosecutor, public prosecutor, who will carry out this campaign promise. Already we know that some names have started coming up. The kitchen cabinet, he's put out the names already, and there seem to be a lot of gender push over there. We've seen already 2 women occupying important positions, the chief of staff and the deputy majority leader in parliament.
Oh, Francesca, we know there are a lot of issues to be looked at when he resumes, but thank you for your time. VOA's Francesca Kakra-Forson.
Thank you.